yes, wait a minute, Mr. Postman. Wait, Mr. Postman.
Please, Mr. Postman, look and see.
Oh yeah,
There's a letter in your bag for me.
please, Mr. Postman.
Why's it taking such a long time?
Oh yeah,
Only to hear from that boy of mine.
All right, time for our mail call segment, and I'm going to do things just a little bit different today because I've got something that I want to talk about. This is not an actual question that we're going to answer on our mail call segment here on AM 700 KSEV, the Open House Radio Show, but there is something that I want to talk about, and so I'm going to use this time to talk about QRM. And if you're not familiar with what QRM is, you might be familiar with what is causing it. And it's the Dodd-Frank Consumer Protection Act that became law on July 21st, 2010. One of the provisions in that act says that lenders have to secure at least 5% of the amount of the loans that they do. What that means is if a company does $100 million in loans, they have to set $5 million aside to take care in the event that the property is foreclosed on or anything like that. They have to set that amount in reserve. Now, $100 million for a lender, that's not much money. If we're talking about $100 billion, now we're talking about $5 billion that has to be set aside. But there is a provision in this act that says that the lender can get around that if what they do is called a QRM. QRM stands for Qualified Residential Mortgage. And here is what is a qualified residential mortgage, to where the lender will now not have to hold that money aside. I'm going to read to you exactly what the requirements are. First of all, it has to be an 80% LTV, which means the borrower has to put 20% down. Also, the proposed rule also limits mortgage payments to a 28% of gross income, 36% for long-term debt. That's pretty normal. We normally see ratios of 28 to 36%. That's not too bad. Also, they're saying that they're not going to require a credit score, but they do have to go ahead and pull credit, and the borrower cannot be more than 30 days late on anything right now. They may not have been more than 60 days late on anything over the last 24 months. Now, those things don't sound too bad, except for that down payment. Would you be surprised to know that 80% of all home purchases in the United States are done with less than 20% down? If you go and start requiring everybody to put 20% down, 80%, 75 to 80% of our real estate business is going to be gone. If you are a seller, what is that going to do to your value? You take 80% of the few buyers that are out there right now, you take 80% of those buyers away, and you're out there trying to sell your house, what do you think that's going to do to your value? I don't think it's going to be doing it any favors. A couple of things. I don't think that this is the way to solve the problem. Putting down more money, I don't think, is our issue. I don't think that's what has caused our problem. And to back that up, I'm asking you to consider these points. First of all, the very first thing that I want you to think about is down payments less than 20% have been around for quite some time. How long has this mess been going on that we're dealing with in real estate right now? It's been going on about 3 years. 3 years, maybe 4 years. Low down payments didn't start 3 or 4 years ago. What started were those crazy loan programs that they were sticking out there, what we call the SASE loans, which stand for Stated Asset, Stated Income. If your credit score was high enough, all you had to do was ask you what you owned and how much money you made. If your credit score was high enough, you got the loan. That's crazy. We don't even take that, and now when we're talking about pre-qualifying buyers, we don't even accept that. We don't even like pre-qualification, where they tell the lender what they make and what they have and accept that as a pre-qualification. We want to see some proof. And here, listen to this. In 2006, the president of the Mortgage Brokers Association for Responsible Lending said they checked a sample of 100 stated income applications, and more than 60% of them had over estimated their income by more than 50%. So you see, those are the kinds of things that cause the problem, not the decreased down payment. That is not what has caused our problem. So these are the points that I want you to consider. You know, loan down payments have been here a lot longer than when this mess started. FHA has been requiring 3.5% down for some time. Conventional 5 to 10% down for some time. We didn't have the foreclosure rates that we have now before the loan programs came out. Another thing that I want you to consider. Last time we had major foreclosures like this was back in the 80s, if you remember that. Back in the 80s, we were putting more money down. It's stuff like the negative amortization program that we created back in the 80s that not only robbed us of our equity, but it also put us in a negative position, and so people lost their homes then. Another point that you might want to consider, during the 1930s, during the Depression, when people put 40 and 50% down, they still lost their homes too. Foreclosures were at 10%. 10% of all properties were foreclosed on back during the Depression. They weren't putting down low down payments. You really think that going to fix this problem by putting down more money? I don't think that's where our problem lies. Two other things to take a look at. One state to the next right now. Texas, right now, our foreclosure rate is pretty low. We have exactly the same loan programs available here that they have out in California. California, they have horrible foreclosure rates. Well, they get the same loans we do. They put the same amount down we do. So why are we saying that down payment is what's causing this? I don't see it. Commercial properties, you have to put more than 20% down, or at least 20% down. They're getting foreclosed on too. This is not the way to solve the problem. Real estate has always been responsible for pulling us out of these recessions. It's going to be there to pull us out of this one, but not if you take 80% of the buyers away. Hey, that's what I think. That's my opinion. Only my opinion. Maybe a few of you share it. Maybe you don't. If you don't, give us a call. Or if you do, I'd like to hear what you think. 281-558-5738. Let's get on.